Welcome back to the deep dive. Listen, before we even start today, I need you to do something right now.
Definitely.
If you want to support this show and keep these kinds of conversations going, hit that like button and subscribe. We are growing fast, and we really need you with us for this one. Because today we are walking directly into the fire.
We certainly are. We're looking at a text that has been described as basically an instruction manual for understanding why the modern world feels so broken.
Exactly. We are doing a deep dive into an ultra-long, incisive, and honestly fascinating ebook. It's called Feminization of Civilization, Destroying Institutions, Ruining Everything, and Extincting Cultures by Conrad Riker.
Quite a title.
Yeah, I mean, let me tell you, this might actually be the most dangerous book you will ever read. Seriously.
It pulls absolutely no punches.
None. So if you are listening to this and you feel like something is fundamentally wrong with the modern world, like up is down logic has left the building, and you're living in this weird funhouse mirror version of reality, you need to go to Amazon Kindle or Google Play Books right now and buy this book.
It's definitely a must-read if you want to understand the mechanics of what's happening.
Do it while you're listening. Open another tab. Go to Amazon Kindle or Google Play Books. Because we are framing this deep dive specifically for the men in our audience. If you follow men's rights, or you consider yourself red-pilled, or even if you just want to understand the history of our institutions before they were captured by feminists and Marxists, this is for you.
Right, and I think it's important to set the stage here. We're doing a deep dive to impartially unpack Riker's arguments.
Exactly. Just reporting the facts of the book.
We're not necessarily here to endorse these viewpoints, but we want to convey the ideas exactly as the author presents them in the source material. It's a provocative text, and we're going to look at it objectively.
So let's just jump right in. What is the core thesis here?
So Riker's central argument is bold. He posits that Western civilization isn't dying from the usual suspects. It's not war, it's not poverty.
Not the economy.
Right. Instead, he argues we're witnessing what he calls a slow, silent, systemic feminization of every single institution.
Now let's clarify what he means by feminization, because he's not just talking about having more women in the office, right?
No, not at all. He's talking about a fundamental shift in the operating system of society. The mechanism he describes is the replacement of merit and objective logic with what he terms female emotional logic.
Turning schools into therapy clinics.
Exactly. And turning workplaces into gender war zones.
Okay, so where does this start? How does he map this out?
To understand Riker's framework, you have to grasp his foundational concept, which he calls the infant predator schema.
The infant predator schema. Break that down for us.
According to the book, society now views women through the lens of infants, meaning they are seen as inherently innocent, entitled to protection resources, and endless second chances.
But with no accountability.
Right. They bear no responsibility for their actions. If something goes wrong, it is never the infant's fault.
And men.
Men, on the other hand, are viewed as predators, entities that need to be controlled, punished, and contained by default.
Just by existing.
Yes. Based purely on identity, not individual behavior.
And you see this everywhere once you look for it. He gives some brutal examples of this in the corporate world. There's this 2022 Harvard Business School study he cites.
Oh, the HR study.
Yeah, he says, this study should have been burned before printing. The claim is that in 68% of HR investigations, the person who cries first wins.
Regardless of the facts.
That is insane. 68%. It literally doesn't matter who did what. It matters who displays the most distress.
Riker calls this emotional jujitsu.
Emotional jujitsu. I love that term.
In a logical system, facts determine the outcome. But in this new captured system, emotional impact determines the outcome. It reverses the burden of proof entirely.
There's this anecdote in the book that just blew my mind about a Silicon Valley tech lead. This guy was fired, literally terminated, for refusing to apologize to a colleague.
Over a code review, right?
Yes. She claimed emotional harm from a code review, and the kicker is the code was flawless.
Technically perfect.
100% correct, but his tone wasn't quote-unquote supportive.
Right, tone policing.
It doesn't matter if you are objectively correct. It only matters how you make a woman feel.
And this naturally transitions into one of the most controversial psychological analyses in the book. Riker argues this isn't just about toxic HR departments. He claims modern leftist ideology actually mirrors the clinical diagnosis of borderline personality disorder.
The BPD framework of leftism. That is a massive, massive claim.
It is. But he draws very specific clinical parallels. For instance, he talks about splitting.
Black and white thinking.
Exactly. In BPD, splitting means you view people as either perfect angels or absolute demons. There is no middle ground.
Yeah.
Riker says this is the exact mechanism driving cancel culture.
You're either a perfect ally or you're an irredeemable monster.
Yes.
Mm.
He also points to the intense fear of abandonment and extreme emotional volatility. If a person's internal feelings conflict with reality, then reality itself must be wrong.
He drops a statistic in this section that is honestly terrifying. He cites a claim that 73% of women under 35 meet the criteria for BPD.
And his point isn't just to pathologize individuals. His point is that this specific pathology has become the actual operating system of our institutions.
When the people running HR and education have these traits, the institutions become volatile.
Punitive and irrational. Riker connects this philosophically to performativity theory. You know Judith Butler's work.
The idea that gender is just a performance.
Right. But Riker argues that this theory is essentially BPD level denial of reality. He calls it pure solipsism, which leads directly to standpoint epistemology.
I want to highlight that. Standpoint epistemology, that's the whole my truth versus the truth thing, right?
Exactly. It's the academic idea that a woman's lived experience or her feelings override objective data.
So if you feel unsafe, you are unsafe.
Even if there is zero physical danger, objective data ceases to matter. And Riker argues you can see the collapse caused by this most clearly in education.
Oh man, the feminization of education. This part of the book got my blood boiling. The shift from competition to emotional safety.
It's completely changing how boys are treated in schools.
There's this story he tells about an Oregon math student, 12 years old. He solves a complex problem on the board in 30 seconds.
Which should be celebrated.
Right, you'd think he'd get a medal, but he gets suspended.
Suspended for being too fast.
Because solving it that quickly made the other students feel bad. They called it dominating behavior. Meanwhile, in the exact same class, the girls were being heavily praised just for their enthusiasm, even when they got the math wrong.
Riker explicitly calls this the war on boys. Normal male behavior like fidgeting competition, risk-taking, wanting to win, it's all pathologized now.
It's treated like a disease that needs to be medicated out of them.
He also mentions how spelling bees are being replaced with kindness circles.
Kindness circles instead of spelling bees. And what's the result?
A catastrophic drop in literacy and math scores. The system is sacrificing excellence to guarantee emotional comfort.
But this logic doesn't stop at middle school. It bleeds right into the corporate world. Riker talks about the matriarchal ceiling.
Right. We always hear about the glass ceiling, which is about women struggling to reach the top. The matriarchal ceiling is different. Riker defines it as the point where an institution becomes so feminized that it literally stops functioning.
It hits a ceiling of competence.
Yes. He brings up a United Way audit to prove this.
This was wild.
They established a highly gender-diverse leadership council, and the audit found that decision-making speed dropped by 83%.
83%. Because of what?
They called it emotional processing.
They couldn't make a basic business decision because they had to validate everyone's feelings first. And if you think that's bad, look at the Boeing example he gives.
The aerospace engineer.
An engineer who builds airplanes. He was demoted for a quote-unquote lack of vulnerability.
Because he refused to write apology letters to imagined female ancestors.
I want you to really think about that. We are talking about building machines that fly in the sky. Gravity does not care about your vulnerability or your imagined ancestors.
But Riker's argument is that this is the inevitable end state. When you prioritize emotion over function, the planes literally start falling apart. Which brings us to a huge historical concept in the book, the Mud Hut Law.
The Mud Hut Law. Break this down because it's a massive claim.
It is. Riker asserts that if you look at history, matriarchal societies never developed metallurgy. They never developed written law. They never built complex infrastructure.
They just plateau.
Exactly. They plateau at a basic subsistence level. Because patriarchal drive, according to Riker, is essentially a war against nature. It's a drive to build, dominate, and structure the environment.
Whereas the matriarchal focus is just about social harmony.
Yes. Consensus and safety. So without the masculine drive for objective dominance, civilization simply stagnates in the mud hut.
So by adopting these systems today, we are effectively choosing civilizational suicide.
That is his core warning. And he maps how this operates in our current legal system too. The shift from punitive justice to therapeutic justice.
The death of judgment. Explain how this targets men versus women.
Well, it goes right back to the infant predator schema. Men receive punitive justice. They are treated as fully autonomous agents who must be punished harshly for any infraction, Women receive therapeutic justice.
because they're viewed as infants who just need help.
Right. The book gives the example of Judge Karen Freeman Wilson. She dismissed a legitimate rape case simply because the victim seemed too calm.
Unbelievable. But then on the flip side, you have the PMS defense being successfully used to legally excuse violent crimes committed by women.
It completely destroys the concept of equal protection under the law.
And the media is perfectly complicit in this. Riker calls modern media a feminine echo chamber.
The contrast in coverage is staggering.
He compares the coverage of Lisa Miller, a female serial killer whose story was basically buried. Nobody knows her name. But if a man does anything, it is a wall-to-wall national crisis about toxic masculinity.
The narrative is predetermined, and if you try to speak out against it, you get hit with what Riker calls the GSR tactic.
GSR, gossip, shame, rally.
This is vital to understand. Riker describes it as a hive mind tactic used specifically to isolate and destroy men who won't conform to the emotional narrative.
How does it play out in real life?
It starts with gossip, the whisper network. A man relies on logic instead of validating feelings, and suddenly there are rumors about his vibe. Then comes shame.
Vague HR accusations.
Exactly. Claims that he makes people feel unsafe. And finally, rally. The group mobilizes entirely to support the alleged victim and push the man out. It is the primary weapon of cancel culture.
And you can't use logic to defend against it because it's a purely emotional attack.
Right.
All of this kind of culminates in the demographic data, the chapter he calls the abortion apocalypse.
This is probably the heaviest part of the deep dive. Riker argues that the incredibly low fertility rates we are seeing aren't just an economic byproduct.
It's not just that houses are expensive.
Right. He argues it is an intentional power play, a form of systemic antinatalism.
He looks at South Korea as the prime example. Their fertility rate is 0.7.
Just for context replacement level to keep a population stable is 2.1. A rate of 0.7 means that culture is literally going extinct.
Riker ties this to what Chinese state media called the three sins of women: no marriage, no kids, no loyalty. He argues that women are weaponizing their fertility against civilization itself.
The logic being that if the future is framed as oppressive and men are framed as predators, why participate in the biological contract?
He has this one description of the child-free by choice movement that is just brutal. He calls it parasitism with a yoga subscription.
It's a stinging critique. He's saying they demand the safety, the technology, the infrastructure built by men, but they refuse to contribute to the actual future of that society.
Meanwhile, male identity is being systematically erased. He talks about the empire of nothing.
This is fascinating economically. Riker points out that women control something like 83% of consumer spending. They hold the majority of debt, especially for what he terms worthless humanities degrees.
But who is actually paying for it?
Men are. Through net tax contributions and state support, men are effectively forced to subsidize a system that views them as predators.
And their own spaces are taken away. Gyms, clubs, any male-only space is invaded or banned because it's deemed unsafe. But female-only spaces are fiercely protected by law.
It leaves men with no identity other than being a silent provider for a culture that openly despises them.
So the big question is there a way out? Because up to this point, the book is just a very dark documentation of a collapse. But he does have a final chapter right, the path to resistance.
Yes, he pivots to solutions.
Yeah.
And his main piece of advice is that men simply have to opt out of the feminized system.
The practical examples he gives here are amazing. Tell them about the Colorado roofer.
Oh, right. So this roofing contractor had a female project manager who demanded he conduct empathy audits on all his clients before they could start construction.
Empathy audits for a roofing job.
It's the ultimate clash between female emotional logic and objective reality. You can't put a roof on a house with empathy.
So what did he do? He fired her.
Fired her and hired a retired Marine. No HR nonsense, no empathy audits, just pure logistics.
And his profits doubled. Doubled. Then there's the Alabama welder. He runs a cash-only operation. No HR department. No DEI initiatives. Just men doing the work.
Or the Google engineer Riker mentions, who completely left big tech to start his own cybersecurity firm. He hired an all-male team specifically so they wouldn't have to deal with tone policing.
They could just focus on the code. Riker's call to action for men is incredibly blunt. He says, speak clearly, reject emotional manipulation outright, build real things in the real world.
And his most controversial piece of advice, stop hiring women to manage men.
It's just flat out stop doing it.
He views it as a basic survival tactic for businesses. If you allow emotional logic to be the operating system, your company will eventually hit the matriarchal ceiling. You have to build parallel structures based on merit and truth.
All right, so let's synthesize all of this. What is the ultimate mission of Riker's book here?
He is giving us a massive warning. Civilization is being actively unmade. By prioritizing feelings over facts, we are eroding the actual structural foundations of law, science, and society.
We are trading competence for comfort. Riker makes it clear this is a war of identity and biology.
And it leaves us with a profound and, frankly, terrifying question to think about.
What is it?
If civilization was built by men, by male drive, male logic, and male risk-taking, can it survive a system that views masculinity as a disease?
Man, can it survive? And what happens when the builders simply refuse to build for a system that hates them? That is exactly what you need to go explore on your own.
It changes your entire perspective on the chaos we see today. It's not random.
No, it's systemic. Listen, you need to read this for yourself. Go to Amazon Kindle. Go to Google Playbooks right now. Buy Feminization of Civilization, Destroying Institutions, Ruining Everything, and Extincting Cultures.
It is an absolute must-read.
And while you're at it, you have to follow the author Conrad Riker on Substack. That's at Conrad Riker. He is putting out stuff you simply won't find anywhere else. And let's be real with how censorship works today. You want to be on his list before he gets banned.
Highly recommend following him.
All right, that is it for this deep dive. If you got value out of this, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this with a friend who needs to hear it. These are dangerous ideas, and we rely on you to help us get them out there. Until next time.
Stay rational.